Alrighty.
Yeah.
For those of you that are chiming in on YouTube and Twitter, we will be starting in just a couple minutes as we get everything ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you guys so much for chiming in for the Developer DAO's workshop today. Today we have Jackson from Cookbook.dev. Really excited about this project and really have a lot of questions for him. So we're going to jump in. One of the things that I want to go ahead and just start with, what I typically like to start with is rather than starting with like who he is or anything, I like to jump in and kind of immediately answer the question of what problem are we trying to solve today? And then I'll let him introduce himself and go into why he's that person and how he ended up picking up this project and where it's going today. So immediately, Jackson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into what problem are we answering with Cookbook.dev today?
Yeah, so Cookbook was a project that was started out of a problem that we were facing ourselves. We were building up and scaling a consulting company through a lot of 2022. And throughout that process, brought on a lot of friends to help build projects for a bunch of different people in the crypto space. And so we were building things like NFT projects, marketplaces, DeFi projects, and found that every time we were delving into a new category, we would want to spend a lot of time like researching, hey, what are the contracts we should build off of? How can we like have any kind of like trust and credibility in them? What are the best like versions of an NFT platform to build off of? And just all of that time sink into building this layer of like trust and credibility around a lot of you think that coming into Web3 it's all open source and there should be a lot of different available stuff to build off of, which is true, but it's still difficult to know exactly what you should use. And a lot of the information is really scattered. The documentation, the audit reports, and just detailed information about what contracts are quality. And so Cookbook is really a platform that we built to help solve that so that people can find each other's work and get building off of it more comfortably, more safely.
That's awesome. Okay, so I see that you've put this whole thing together and it is super interesting. Let's go ahead and learn more about it. If you'd like to go ahead and share your screen or anything like that, that'd be an awesome time to do that. And let me know if you need help with that.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a little presentation ready. Let me go ahead and share screen. Bum. Cool. All right, is that coming through?
There we go. We got it up. All right, excellent. So for everybody that is tuning in, or just now tuning in, this is Jackson from Cookbook.dev. We're about to go into a deep dive on Cookbook.dev and what problems are we solving with it today, and how can you use it. So go right ahead, Jackson.
Awesome. Yeah. So my name is Jackson. I've been working and building Cookbook.dev for most of the last year. I believe that this is a QR code that links to our socials if you're interested in joining them. We've got a really awesome and active developer community where we help people grow, foster their skills, and build the projects that they're looking to build. So a little about me, I'm a developer and an entrepreneur in the Web3 space. I've been working full-time in Web3 for about 3 years now, on a huge variety of projects spanning pretty much every vertical of crypto. So DeFi, NFT gaming, marketplaces, on-chain analytics, and a lot more. I'm currently building out Cookbook with two of my co-founders, Tyler and James, as well as Sam, who's on our team. And my main thing is doing developer relations, and so helping with partnerships, helping other developers use Cookbook to build projects that they're looking to build in the space. And yeah, it's been quite a journey. Um, and so, why would you use Cookbook? Well, there's a couple of different reasons. First, if you're looking for a smart contract. So if you're coming in looking to build a new project, looking to even build something just to play around with, Cookbook at its core is a open source repository for smart contracts and other information where you can come and find and easily curate a smart contract, build a level of trust around it through a bunch of information that we've curated around the smart contract, including documentation, including audits, including download statistics and usage reports, and then go ahead and integrate it into your workflow. And so the next one is looking for a contract library. There's more than just contracts in Cookbook. If you're looking for core libraries and looking to build something a little bit more complex, you can find that on the platform as well. And the third one is if you're looking to build out your own Web3 portfolio. So one of the cool things about Cookbook is once you deploy contracts, you can actually pull them directly into your account just by connecting your wallet. And then other people can log on to Cookbook and they can see your account, they can see the contracts that you've deployed, the changes that you've made to them. And you can actually share that information with potential employers, and they get an additional layer of credibility and understanding about what you've been building in the space. Like if you share your GitHub, recruiter is not likely to know exactly what the nuances of X and Y mean if it's just code. But if they can see that other people have been downloading it, have been using it, that it's deployed across X and Y chain, that can mean a lot more toward an initial person coming through and taking a look at what you've built. And so overall, Cookbook is a useful platform if you're building in the Web3 space. If you're doing stuff in Solidity, if you're doing stuff in EVM, if you're building in Web3, I think Cookbook can be something useful to you. And it's all completely free as well.
So I have a question really quick. First off, I want to make a comment. I've always wanted to understand how a lot of Web3 developers were able to really kind of put together a easily definable portfolio, something that you can go through and you can kind of review. And a lot of Web3 developers that I know of really don't even know how they present their own portfolio themselves. How do you set up a website to really show and detail what you've done, other than like, you know, writing blogs about it and everything? So this is really interesting setup. I do have a question right off the bat from OXDev. How is this different from OpenZeppelin? What are some of the key differences from OpenZeppelin versus Cookbook.dev?
Yeah, and OXDev, that's a great question. The key difference really comes down to breadth of content. And so if you look at what OpenZeppelin's doing, they're a fantastic company. But at the end of the day, they're a security consulting company. And they have exactly what they're doing with their library as a way to build credibility around their brand, to build trust. And so they have a small number of contracts and contract components that are extremely credible, extremely trustworthy. They've done a lot of very rigorous testing too. And there's a good reason why a lot of different contracts throughout the Web3 and EVM space use them at their core. What we're looking to do at Cookbook is go a lot farther beyond that in terms of the types of content you can find. And so, for example, on OpenZeppelin, you're not going to find soulbound NFTs. You're not going to find a ERC20 staking dividend contract. The thing is, on Cookbook, you can find everything. You can find every single contract that people have made, and then every single library component beyond that, and get like our approach is a little bit less on, hey, we're going to be one organization that's going to curate, that's going to scan these things for security. But what we're going to do is give all of that information to the developers. And so pass along the documentation, the audit reports so we can find the information about what's been deployed on what chains for what amount of time, and give that information along so that people can have a much wider registry of information to look at, and just more context around those, and so they can make more educated decisions on what they want to build off of, and find a lot more in terms of being able to build a wider breadth of things.
That's an awesome answer. Go right ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, and thank you for the questions, Dev. So this page is just a little summary of the Cookbook platform. It's the easiest way to find any smart contract on EVM. Smart contracts, in essence, they're the underlying building blocks of Web3. They power all dApps on the back end. And something that a lot of people don't know is that most contracts and these components already exist out in the wild in some form or fashion. It's just difficult to find and difficult to be able to trust them. And so with Cookbook, we provide a global repository with, again, documentation, deployment statistics, and so much more. And we really focus on the curation aspect, the trustability aspect, so you can go to the platform, do a search, find what you're looking for, and then integrate it into your workflow, start running tests on it, and build the rest of your dApp. You can find a lot of top protocols, top developers on the Cookbook platform. Here's just an example of individuals as well as projects you can find, stuff like Nouns, Lens, Azuki, Request, Farcaster, and then individual contributors as well. And it allows you to start building faster. So there's a lot of time sink that goes into finding, deciding, modifying, or even building contracts from scratch. Cookbook can save a whole bunch of time in your Web3 development workflow, because you can find great protocols and smart contracts, see where they're being used and who's using them, and then quickly deploy them, test them, and integrate them into whatever workflow you use, whether that be Hardhat, whether that be Remix, whether that be Foundry. And that's a little summary of Cookbook. So I wanted to go through and kind of show you guys the platform. And let me go ahead and switch what screen share I'm doing. But yeah, in the meantime, are there any other questions coming in while I'm getting that set up?
Yeah, so OXDev had another question. First, he said, thanks for answering the question. But he also wanted to ask, are the total amount of contracts really battle tested, or like they are on OpenZeppelin? Obviously, you were saying OpenZeppelin does a pretty good job of just doing rigorous testing on the contracts that are available there. What does that look like on Cookbook?
Yeah, so like I said, on Cookbook, we're taking a more wide approach so we can have a lot of contracts, and we take the approach of passing just a huge amount of information that's available along to the developers. And so what that means in terms of landing on certain contracts is that there is a span, right? There are contracts that are battle tested, that are trustworthy, that you can know, that you can use without having to second guess. And then there are contracts that are more new and have been recently made by a developer, haven't necessarily gone through repeated audits by different companies. And then there's everything in the middle, where things might have been audited by like a newer auditing company, etc. And our goal is to just pass all of that information along to the developer and take the long tail approach of providing the most trustworthy contracts up top. And so what we've done is we've built a little system that's working on our back end that takes some of this information, like how many transactions are going through a contract, does this contract have an audit by a reputable firm? And the things that are the highest there are the things that we'll present first. And if you notice going through the Cookbook platform, you'll see a little verified check mark or an audited check mark on some of these contracts. Those ones will be populating at the top of the search. We don't want people that are newer in the space coming in and instantly getting presented with a more cutting edge niche, not necessarily battle tested contract. And so if you're coming through the platform looking for something simple, you'll initially come across the audited, tested, reputable contracts. But if you do a lot of digging, you can find stuff that's more under the surface that hasn't necessarily gone through the same amount of rigor. You can find the entire breadth here on Cookbook.
That's an awesome response. I was going to ask, obviously with some of the contracts being very battle tested and then the other ones not so much because they're very new. I was going to ask, is there a filtering system for that? Do you identify which ones are clearly battle tested by reputable firms, or do you have like a new identifier of some sort that lets you know this one hasn't been battle tested? And so it sounds like you answered that question pretty clearly, and we'll probably see that in the demo as well.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and switch over to that screen. Give me 1 second. Cool. That should be good. Present.
Nice. There it is.
All right. Yeah, so this is Cookbook. And you can find the platform by going into your browser and typing cookbook.dev. Again, cookbook.dev is the full URL, and it will take you to this landing page. You can see at the top, we've got a navigation bar, then a couple different options. You can contribute, search, go to my contracts, and then this will be a little login button if you don't have your wallet connected. Going on the platform, you have a bunch of different tags and keywords you can go into: tokens, NFTs, sales, DAOs, utilities, different contract types. And then scrolling down, here are a couple different projects and protocols that are listed on our platform. And here's a couple different recent users that have joined. A little further, these are new contracts that have been listed. So we got CryptoKitties that are it's on here, and then a bunch of other different projects from different protocols, different users, and then a little bit more of a description and more examples of contracts and a Q&A. But I wanted to just kind of go through a little bit of the different contracts in the platform, as well as a bit of the user flow for people that are going through and using them to actually integrate into their workflow. So right off the bat, just to show kind of the searching functionality, I'll click on the tokens button here. And what you can see is that there's 357 contracts on the platform that are tokens. So really variations of ERC20 contracts. And this right here is what we were talking about just before. You can see the Open Zeppelin contract is up here first. It's got the little audited check mark. And then we've got a lot of different tags over here on the left side. And so if you wanted to just look for audited contracts, you can put on that tag, and then every single contract that you've got in this search is something that has been audited. And if you look, we've got contracts from Open Zeppelin, from Third Web, from Euler Network, and then if you go down even a little bit further, we've actually got a bunch of different contracts that are not currently on the platform, but are being found on different various block explorers. And so with these, you can actually click import, and it will bring these contracts onto the platform, so you can do a whole lot more functionality to them that we're going to be walking through in a little bit. But for the moment, I can actually just click on this import button, and it brings it onto Cookbook. And a lot of what that is doing is bringing all of the code onto Cookbook, actually generating the ABI, the bytecode, and then making this contract deployable directly from the browser. So I can actually come in here, and right after bringing this in from a block explorer, do a no-code deployment of this contract, where it will just deploy it directly from the browser. And if you look, we've got documentation that's already been brought in. We've got the contract in itself. And yeah, let me go ahead and come over to this burnable ERC20 token, and we're going to walk through some of the basic functionality here. And so if you look on the left side, like we were saying before, we've got the documentation. We can go ahead and peek through the actual source code of the contract, see if this is something that we're interested in building off of. As you can see, super simple contract. It's just a burnable ERC20 that inherits the Open Zeppelin burnable standard, and then pipes arguments into it and mints the tokens into the sender, or in this case, the user that generates the account. And so there's a couple things that I can do. And what I'm looking to do here kind of depends on how I usually build in the space. So one of the recent functions that we've got here is the open and remix functionality. And the open and remix functionality will bring this contract right into Remix. Okay, it looks like I've got that still streamed on the StreamYard page. Let me go ahead and switch the share screen.
And while you're
So
doing that, I
here's,
just want to ask a
yeah,
real quick question because it's still coming up for me. But what skill level does somebody need to have as far as contract writing? Is this something that I need to be a level 99 grand wizard in contract writing just to really be able to dive into Cookbook, know what I'm looking at, and use it, or is this pretty entry level? Because for me, I would say I'm middle of the road somewhere, and this is makes a lot of sense to me. But what have you done to really curtail this to make sure that it helps some of the newer devs when it comes to contract writing?
yeah, a lot of what we've been trying to do is, talking to these developers, seeing what their core pain points are, and then modifying the platform to address those. And so one of the big, features that we had there was the deployment from the browser. And so you actually don't even need to know how to work with any type of standard development workflow, whether that be Remix or Hardhat or Foundry. If you are even just a front end developer that's getting building in Web3 for the very first time, you can deploy a contract that's, as you were saying, like trusted, battle tested, something like this Open Zeppelin contract directly from the browser, and then just bring all of the code into a front end interface that you're already familiar with how to build. And you can do that through any traditional JavaScript library, whether it be Ethers or whether that be Web3.js, and build an entire dApp without even having to know the solidity behind it. And or if you're, kind of like where you're saying, like a little bit more middle of the road, you've done a couple different contracts before, you're a little bit more practiced, that's when something like Open and Remix is going to be a little bit more useful to you, and you'll be able to dive a little bit more into the contract, get more usage out of the documentation, see what you might want to edit, and then get into testing.
Okay, cool. Just before you get into this, I have to give a small shout out. I wish I had this a week ago when I was in MailChain Hackathon because the biggest struggle I was having was the contract itself rather than the front end self. That was mostly what the hackathon was mostly focused on, and I wish I had this as part of my tool, in my toolbox to be able to deploy a contract super quickly and then be able to, really implement something that was ready for that hackathon. So yeah, definitely keeping this in my toolbox for the future, especially that browser deployment. I find my roots from the front end side. So this, I'm very slow when it comes to the contract side. So I definitely want to start using this in the future. Go right ahead with this, this demonstration.
Yeah, for sure. And no, that's a thing that we hear a lot. I feel most Web3 developers are people that have come in from the Web2 space. And so the smart contracts and the solidity portion of things is usually what we find people building in the space having the most difficulty with, because there's so much nuance, so much kind of like ambiguity, and it's really such like a fractured environment in terms of being able to find trusted and credible sources. So for the next hackathon, you'll have it.
Yeah, I'm sure to some degree, and I probably speak for a lot of devs out there too that came from Web 2 going into Web 3, that when you're doing anything in Solidity, doing any type of contract writing, you always kind of feel like you're walking on eggshells and you're constantly having to try to avoid all these pitfalls of, contract writing. Because I mean, in the past 2-3 years, all we ever talk about is contract vulnerability and contract hacking and all that stuff that happens. But if we had some sort of framework to really just kind of navigate and help us understand it, it's been audited and all kinds of things like that. I mean, that gives me, as a former front end developer, a lot of security in thinking about how I'm going to approach my contracts, rather than having that feeling of walking at eggshells. So this is a really, really cool implementation and approach for contract writing. Go right ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. So as you can see, I just clicked on the Open and Remix button on the Cookbook platform. And what it does is we've worked with the Remix team to create, this plugin on the left side. So if you're already in the Remix interface, you can actually find any smart contract on the Cookbook platform and bring it directly into Remix. So if I wanted to get the super fluid contracts, I could. If I wanted to look for a different NFT contract, I could. But if you're building on this, you feel like you need another contract for it to interact with, to bring in for testing purposes, then you've got this handy Cookbook extension, and you can bring any other contract onto the platform. But yeah, I've got the main contract right here on Remix now, and I can look through it. I can make some changes to it if I want. This is a pretty simple, pretty straightforward contract. I don't think there's anything here that I'd want to change. So what I can do is go through and actually compile it and then deploy it. So if I wanted to, then I can go through, and here we are. If I wanted to just deploy this with the name of test, the symbol right there, the second variable is TST, and the total supply of 10,000, then I could go ahead and deploy that just like that onto the Remix virtual machine, like environment that's on there, or I could go through and kind of look at any of these other supported networks, or connect my own wallet and deploy it on a mainnet or testnet. And just like that, even without a development environment that you have on your computer, you can go through, still make changes, and deploy any of these contracts after modifying them. Let me switch back to the Cookbook tab. And so we've got a couple other things. I want to go through this no-code deployment as well, so you can get a sense of what that is. And this is not available for every single contract on the platform, because there are some, such as like the Uniswap contract or the Superfluid contract, that are pretty complex in terms of a lot of those protocols are a variety, like a huge span of different contracts that are actually interacting with each other. And so the deployment process is not as simple. And if you're looking to, make something like a clone of Uniswap or a fork of a DEX, you're gonna want to have a little bit more fine-tuned control than you'd be able to get from a browser-based deployment. But it's still there for most of the contracts, and for those people that are newer to this space, this is something that you could actually find very valuable. But this is the interface, and it'll just take any of the arguments. And so here I can deploy the exact same contract with the exact same parameters right over here. So we're going to deploy this burnable ERC20 with 100,000 tokens, and you can pick from any of these chains. And so this actually has, I believe, over 400 different networks that we have available. So if you have anything that you want, you can actually search directly from this nav bar for any different mainnet, testnet, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this right now to the Goerli testnet. Let me make sure that I have some Goerli ETH, and it looks like I do. And if you don't, we actually have these nice links here that will take you directly to whatever faucet. And so if I click on that, it takes me directly to this Goerli faucet, where I can get a little bit of Goerli ETH to do my deployment.
That is really cool. Some cool implementation. I feel like we're already at the stage now where it had already taken me several hours just to get to this point of deploying a contract. So yeah, this is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of our goal here is just make the process easier. Like I said, we've been talking to a lot of developers at hackathons, at different events, or just on video call, and trying to understand where their biggest pain points are when they're going through and hacking on things, and trying to address them like one by one, just to make the process as smooth and easy as possible. Getting into Web3 development, especially getting into smart contracts, shouldn't be something incredibly grueling. Especially when you're coming in with existing development knowledge, like a lot of these people coming from web development, should be a relatively seamless transition. And there are a lot of tools out there that really help, but they're very fractured, they're very difficult to find, and a lot of what we've been trying to do has just been compile all of the wealth of knowledge that other people have been building in the Web3 space to really simplify all of that. But there I go, I just clicked deployment. I don't think you guys can see over there, but MetaMask just popped up, and I click confirm. And this is getting deployed at the moment directly from my own wallet. So there's actually no real middleware going on here. There's no wallet on our backend that's minting the contract and testing it. We've got the deployment scripts all in the browser. And when you click deploy here, you're actually calling that directly from your individual wallet. So if I go here and I click on my wallet right here, and then I'm going to open a new tab and go to Guerli Block Explorer. So I can switch over to this Guerli Block Explorer, type in my wallet, and press enter. And you can see right here, this wallet actually called the contract creation. I was the individual, wallet that created, minted this contract. And you can see there it is. It's live on the Guerli testnet with the exact same variables I put in. I've got the TST as the name, the token's name is test, and it was just minted 45 seconds ago from my wallet. And if I come back to the Cookbook platform, here's the contract. I've got the contract address. If I go and I paste this into MetaMask in add custom token, I can actually see those tokens in my MetaMask already. And everything that you need to continue with your development workflow, you can bring the verification data, the ABI, the bytecode into the front end and start directly hooking up your web3.js to start building out your dApp. And we've also got a little management dashboard in here. So you can see all of the read functions. You can call all the write functions. If I wanted to burn 100 of these tokens, I can do that directly from here. Click submit, click confirm, and it'll send that directly into the blockchain. And you can just get started with whatever you're doing next in your development process.
Wow, this is awesome. Couple questions really quick, just off the top of mind. Maybe people are thinking about this. I mean, there's no wait list for this. This is live right now. You can jump in and start using it right away, correct?
Yeah, it's live, it's free, it's available. Cookbook.dev is the website. It's on the internet.
Okay, excellent. So then from there, I think the next question I really have is what's next? Like what do you plan to do with Cookbook? Are you looking to add additional features? Are you scaling it? What's next for Cookbook.dev overall?
Yeah, a lot of it's just we've got people that are using the platform, just staying in communication with our users and seeing kind of just in that iterative process, like what is the most useful thing that we can build after this. And so one of the recent things that we released was that remix plugin that I was showing you earlier, and that recently became one of our most popular features. We've got tons of people using it, and it was something that we didn't expect. So we're looking deeper into some of the plugin side of things, and looking to see what we can build to provide more value there. One of the things we've been talking about has been more testing information. So when you download a contract, it could come with testing suites. We've been looking at more stuff as well on the AI side to help provide more wealth of information around what exists, and how to build off it. We've actually been this documentation was actually pulled directly from the contract itself, but on smart contracts that we've been pulling from different block explorers that don't necessarily have documentation written in, we've been using ChatGPT to populate, giving it the entire contract as context and just allowing it to write out different bits of documentation for each of the individual function calls, which has been incredibly useful. And so those are a couple things that we're looking on building. And a lot of it's just staying in touch with users and seeing what's valuable. And so people that are watching this stream, if you're building in the Web3 space, I'd love to hear what you have to say about where your biggest pain points are. And use Cookbook, hop on our Discord, tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we can do to improve it. That's the best source of inspiration for us on what to build.
Excellent. So then, you mentioned documentation, you mentioned jumping into the Discord, asking questions and basically outlining pain points or anything like that. As far as documentation and pain points, is there a source of content that maybe somebody's still fairly new at it, some tutorial information, anything like that? Do you guys have tutorials, or is that like an opportunity for a Web3 content creator right now to go in and create some video tutorials on how to do some deployments with Cookbook.dev?
Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. We've had a couple people on YouTube that have made contracts, got them on Cookbook, made videos on how to go through them, but we haven't had anything more comprehensive on the tutorial and summary side. And if there are any Web3 content creators out there, we're a small team. We're looking to go out, promote, and help find people, help build this platform, and engage with people in any way that we can, but could always use help from other people in the Web3 space, other community members. So that'd be, amazing.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'll ask a few just off the wall questions here, if you don't mind. What are some of the most used contracts that you're seeing on Cookbook being used actively from your active users?
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like, on the NFT and ERC20 side of things. And we've also seen a decent amount from every new protocol that we list. And so one of the examples is recently we listed, the superfluid contracts, and we had a couple people up there building on superfluid, and they've got this rolling ongoing hackathon called the Wave Pool, and we've seen people that have been going and participating in those kind of events, finding like the base contracts on Cookbook and being able to build off of them more quickly and easily.
Okay, that's awesome. I love the idea of people using it for that hackathon thing, and so that's a really cool approach to it, especially when you're trying to expedite the process of the build, depending if it's a 5-day or 30-day or even 90-day hackathon. I definitely want to make sure that I have some sort of framework to work with. That's awesome. Do you have any closing comments or anything as far as what it is to work with Cookbook.dev or anything?
Well, it's been like an amazing journey so far, and we're looking to, stay in contact and as close knit as we can with the developer community. I think I don't have too much coming exactly to my mind on that, aside from the fact that, if you're a developer, get in touch with us, engage with us, follow us on Twitter, shoot us a message, let us know how you're building, what your process is like, how cookbook.dev is coming and helping, or where it's falling short. That's the information that we love to hear. That's what really keeps us going and helps our process.
Perfect. And last question, mostly for the investors or anything that are really interested in this cutting edge technology. Are you guys raising? Have you guys raised? Where are you guys on any type of fundraising rounds?
Yeah, so we just this last 2 or 3 weeks ended up closing a seed round, and we're going to be putting out a little bit of a press release, a little bit of information on that in the following week. So I'll let that come out when it does.
Awesome. I won't ask for too much alpha on that, but that's really cool. Congratulations on closing out the seed round. Well, that's going to conclude our workshop today. Jackson, I really appreciate you coming on and detailing what Cookbook.dev is and how amazing it is, and how well it'll help both expedite and add that additional layer of security for people that aren't exactly, like I said, level 99 grand wizards of contract writing. So from there, if you have any questions or any additional questions, feel free to jump into Cookbook.dev's Discord channel to ask them questions directly. If you want to see any of the upcoming workshops that we have for Developer DAO, please make sure that you subscribe to the Developer DAO YouTube channel, and we also do announcements on the Developer DAO Twitter. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thank you so much, Patrick. It's been fantastic.